Hey guys, Nick here. Welcome to the Omniverse of Nick's next Walking Dead Friday the 13th and crossover story. What if Negan used Jason Voorhees, which will be 3 parts. Before we get started, be sure to smash the like button and subscribe to the Omniverse of Nick and check out the About tab and home pages so you don't miss anything that the Omniverse has to offer for the future. With all that said, let's begin. So, this is the next Walking Dead story. What if Negan used Jason Voorhees? Highly anticipated, and 3 parts, and trust me, suspense, surprise, and everything. You guys are gonna like this. So, for the two of you who don't know, Negan is one of the most infamous villains and people turned good and just iconic characters The Walking Dead has to offer. And Jason Voorhees is one of the most infamous horror movie villains of all time. And about 3 years ago, start of my channel, I did a story or tale of him being in The Walking Dead. But I said that there's no way to put him in a story because of who he is and just what he's about. But that was 3 years ago, and I'm going to get to that more in a minute. We also got to see a Walker version of him, just like the Freddy Krueger Walker, in the Daryl Dixon spinoff. So it just goes to show nothing goes unmissed whenever you got a huge show like The Walking Dead. But I just forbode myself from doing Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger, and Michael Myers in a story because there's no way to put them in a cohesive story for The Walking Dead because basically all three of them are immortal. But there have been times where they can die. And especially if you put them in the earlier segments of their movies or in specific moments of said movies. But even then, their immortality is very, very, very complex and put in. So, like I said, that was 3 years ago. So now we not only got this for Jason, but 3 others lined up. Freddy Krueger, pretty much never going to happen. Michael Myers is pretty much on that line too. Jason Voorhees is the only one who really can work in The Walking Dead. And for this story and the others preceding it, you'll see what I mean. So, just want to point out, no saviors. Jason Voorhees, besides one savior, besides Negan, will replace all the rest. No saviors. And Negan will be using an electric collar to control him, just like Broly, pretty much, or just any beast or uncontrollable person that you've seen, like Shimo Godzilla, or just in general, beasts in general. You guys get what I mean. So, he will also affect really, really much so by season 6, the confrontation with Rick's group. And you guys are going to see in these 3 parts, this story is extremely suspenseful and surprising, and the ending will surprise you in a way that really you wouldn't have been expecting. And it will be a callback to a few other stories. But it will be worth the watch and the anticipation. So let's begin. We open up with Negan starting out as the leader savior, going across the bikers, getting Laura, who's the only savior, and going on the journey to hunt for an army for his whole savior introduction. But just then, he is in a part of the woods where a menacing figure has exited Camp Crystal Lake, crossed miles and miles and miles after this whole world turned into undead, and it ruined what he was basically still alive for. And so now, Jason's hunting. And soon enough, Negan crosses right into the middle of where the two are destined and fated to meet. And they do. In the middle of the woods, Negan meets Jason Voorhees. And within a second, Jason strikes with his machete. Negan just barely dodges it, with the tip of the machete just piercing his hair and a part of his head. But Negan strikes Jason over and over and over so much that his bat breaks. Think about it for a second. Negan strikes Jason so much. Jason is so durable that he keeps getting back up, and he keeps getting back up. And Negan's trying over and over and over again, but Jason just keeps getting up, and it's not stopping. And what adds to that is that every time he strikes, the bat begins to weaken more and more and more. It's like the barbed wire and just the hardwood of the bat aren't doing anything to him. There's marks, there's obvious signs that he is hurting him, but it doesn't seem to be affecting him. Jason just keeps on shrugging through the pain. And soon enough, it becomes so obvious how durable and non-injured Jason is that the bat can't take it anymore, and it breaks. Negan looks at Lucille, his new weapon to remember his wife, just forging this weapon that was given to him by Laura, and it's destroyed. Jason then strikes with his machete. Slash! And then a white flash. We cut to Negan hold over a banister at a huge, huge fortified location. The sanctuary. But he's not dead. Doesn't seem to be any sign of Jason. And to add to that, what just happened wasn't real. What actually happened was, instead of the back, Negan struck for the face, distracting Jason and knocking him out enough. Negan was able to drag him to the nearest location. And with Laura by his side, who questions everything that Negan's doing right now, says, I thought we were after an army, not some kind of half-man, half-walker that wouldn't even shrug beyond some of your attacks. Even if I had gotten in there, I doubt that my help would have stopped whatever this thing is. Negan says he's got an idea of who this is, but he can't place his finger on it. But that doesn't matter right now. They could use this guy, this beast, this person, to their advantage. All he's got to do is run a test. The savior idea is still in his head, but he wants to experiment with this guy. So, Negan holding Lucille says, and this place is the perfect place to commence the first test. And they find a workroom with a bunch of tech, a bunch of tools, and very much so out of the way of anyone in the satellite outpost to stop them. And Negan latches on an electric collar with the help of Laura and the tools at their disposal to control Jason. Once Jason spurs and wakes up, he instantly jumps at Negan, who runs out of there lightning fast. Jason running right after him, with Laura hiding. And with Negan hiding enough to get away from Jason, Jason doesn't stop. Paula and all of the saviors in that satellite outpost instantly get killed. All their gunshots and weapons mean nothing. Jason eviscerates all of them. Laura finds the perfect opportunity and trips Jason. Then she pushes a button and boop! The electric collar spurs and electrocutes Jason, which we've seen him get electrocuted and affected by fire, explosions, etc., etc. So electrocution by the collar, immortal or not, would be enough to knock him out and get him hurt. Negan doesn't want to take chances, and boom! Strikes him in the face with Lucille, knocking him out for sure. Negan and Laura discuss what has happened, and the fact that no man or woman in this satellite outpost could stop this beast. They even aimed at his head, and it still didn't affect him. So this guy, this person, this monster is clearly not a walker. If he was a walker, he would have died. Because you have to hit the brain. And these guys, these people, they hit his brain multiple times with weapons, with guns, etc. Negan has even done it a bunch of times. And nothing has happened. So clearly, this guy is not a man. And he's not a walker. He's some kind of some kind of hybrid being. And Negan, he is definitely looking into experimenting with this more. And he smiles sinisterly at Laura and says, they might not need an army. And he's beginning to wonder and begin to connect the dots about who this creature really is. But he's not done testing it. They find another satellite outpost, and Negan commences the same test, and everybody is killed there. Then they approach a huge fortified location, the Sanctuary, and Negan says he knows that there is going to be a great amount of people here, and this is where he will commence the final test. So they push the button on Jason's collar, waking him up. And then, in the same area which Negan and Gabriel were in, Negan and Laura go to. Thankfully, there's nobody there. But they're not going to get in the way of Jason whenever he attacks this time. Because unlike the satellite outposts, there are too many guys there and people that if they get in the way of Jason or go into the wrong area, they could die. And Negan does not want that to happen. Most of all, because he's trying to figure out an experiment with this plan of his. So Jason enters the sanctuary alone, and everybody is killed. Simon, supposedly the savior leader before Negan, with no evidence to suggest otherwise, is killed. Gavin, Regina, and every savior under the old savior leader's command is killed by Jason's onslaught. None of their attacks, be it gun, melee weapon, or combined assault, mean anything to Jason. And soon enough, Negan and Laura enter the sanctuary, with Jason spotting them and going and rushing at them full force. Negan clashes with Jason, Lucille versus Machete, over and over again, but Jason's pure willpower and strength and menacing ferocity is way too much for Negan. No matter how angry or powerful Negan is, it's no match for Jason. So, Laura does the only thing she can, electrocutes Jason, and Jason once again meets the bat. So Negan is here we flash, this is where we flash to, where Negan was holstered over the banister of the sanctuary. This is where it all comes together, but it's not the last flash that you will see. Just because this is where it's supposedly settling in. Negan talks to Laura now and says this is proven that even an army cannot stand to this man. And he finally tells Laura that he knows who he is. And he knows what their army and their plan will be for what will be the sanctuary and Negan's savior plan. They don't need an army. They just need the two of them. Jason Voorhees is who this person is. And he will be their army. And he knows just the name. Jason Voorhees, the looming savior. And with this, Negan and Laura have commenced an ultimate plan beyond anything that any canon counterpart of them has ever done. A lone person, Jason Voorhees, will be their army, with Negan and Laura at the helm controlling him, just like Broly and every other ferocious monster that is beyond control. And still might be. How long will they be able to control Jason? Or will he eventually be tamed to them? How will Rick's group even compare to Jason or Negan's group in this timeline? Will it be 10 times easier? Or will this be 10 times worse, no matter if there's no savior army to encounter at any base or anything? How will the communities fare with no amount of soldiers? Will Jason replace that in a much more menacing way? And how many more flashes or changes, or how will the direction of this story go with Jason Voorhees as the looming savior and a new turning point for the Walking Dead universe and a full-fledged sitting point for how Jason Voorhees would canonically and is now canonically put into the Walking Dead franchise. Find out in the penultimate and second part next time.